Okay, we're doing lemons.
So spontaneous.
Kelly and I decided to do absolutely no prep. So hello and welcome to our podcast.
Well, what do you mean, Megan? We never do prep. This is unscripted.
No, we do prep. We do prep. I have notes. I have
Okay,
absolutely
okay.
no notes right now.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to M&K Unscripted. And welcome back to another episode
Yay!
called
Lent and
and
Lemons. I love that.
Megan said we should talk about lemons, and I said, what in the world are we going to talk about lemons? But I actually have a really random story.
Oh, okay.
It's not a story, actually. I just I remember, do you know those things like lemon drops?
Like the candy?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, they're like,
Yes.
yes.
They're like a hard candy that tastes like lemons. Yep.
Oh my gosh, I haven't had those in forever. But I remember in like 5th grade when we would have to take like standardized tests, my teacher would give us, her name was Mrs. Green, which is just like such an iconic name. Anyways, she would always give us lemon drops because she's like, lemon makes you think better. And I really believed it, and it calmed me down. My anxiety was here. Maybe I should do that. Maybe I should start having lemon
Maybe
drops.
you should gaslight yourself into thinking that a certain food will make you think better.
Hey, actually, it did.
No, you
because
were
it calmed
Pavloved
me
into
down.
that. For sure.
Well, it helped me focus.
That's because you thought it was going to help you
Yeah,
focus.
but isn't that like still effective then?
Yeah, I guess.
Boom.
You just conditioned yourself into doing that. Do you know the vine of the person that's like, when life gives you lemons? Do you know that?
Yes.
Okay. That's it. Thank you for listening to our podcast. We're done.
We're like actually so unhinged. Okay.
I was gonna. Do you like lemons? Should we talk about lemons?
How often do you mean like
eat
a raw
lemons?
lemon? Like, I don't know.
Well, some people put like lemons in their water.
I actually kind of hate that. I'm not gonna lie.
Why?
I'd rather, because it's like watered down lemonade. I'd rather just have lemonade.
Oh.
That's.
Would
like,
you rather have plain water though, or would you rather have lemon flavored water?
Well, what did I just say?
You'd rather have lemonade.
And then I'd rather have water. That was so sassy of me. I'm so sorry.
The funny thing is, I didn't hear what you said because I wasn't listening.
Well, that pretty much sums it up, folks. See you next week. Actually, not next
No,
week.
not next week. In 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Anyways.
Anyway, I was gonna make a cute little analogy of lemons to Lent because lemons remind me of Lent in that they're good for you, but sometimes they're just bleh, you know?
I was thinking that lemons, like in itself. Okay.
Sorry.
I was thinking of lemons as Lent, of like, Lent is such a transformative time.
Ooh.
And like, there's so much potential, but Lent itself is not going to transform you. It's only if you put in the work. So only if you put in the work to lemons can you make something really good, like lemonade. And only if you put in the work in Lent are you going to like truly see transformation.
Ooh. I like that. Look at us. Just
This is why it should be unscripted.
This is fantastic. Yeah. I feel like I would agree with that. That is good.
When life gives you Lent.
When Lent gives you lemons. Lenten lemons. It sounds like Lenten is the adjective for lemons. Lenten lemons.
That makes me think of lentils.
Lentils
And
and
I don't
lemons.
like lentils.
Lentils, lemons, and Lent.
I feel like lentil would be the name of like an old man.
We really should have done lentils for this.
Ew.
Lent and lentils. That reminds me of giving people names that aren't names. Lentil?
Yeah, I feel like lentil is like, it's on the same wavelength as Earl. You know what I mean, though? Like,
Yeah, I do.
I just wouldn't name my kid Lentil, but nobody asked me that, so.
Lentil?
Lentil. What would you call him for short?
Lent.
Lent.
Or
It's
tull.
giving, like, lint, though, you know?
Or just
ol.
int. Hey, int.
Come on, Int.
Go clean your
Come on
room.
inside. You get in a timeout. It's in the corner, Int. Int with all the lint in the corner.
I just sounded like a car that wouldn't start in the winter. I just heard that on my voice. Oh dear.
What?
That was it.
Oh, I thought you were looking at something.
No, I looked at the clock and realized that it was later than I thought it was, but
Well, that's what happens
that's
when
it.
you're having a good time talking about Lent and lemons.
We haven't actually started talking about Lent
We
yet.
kinda did.
We probably should do that.
All right.
Anyway,
let's start.
how's your Lent? We're like almost a week into Lent now. When
Yeah, I
we're
feel like
recording this.
maybe we're doing. Maybe we should do like a part 1, part 2.
Ooh, like a pre-Lent, post-Lent?
Yeah, this isn't pre-Lent, but this is like a weekend of Lent. Anyways, okay, I want to talk about Ash Wednesday. Can we talk about Ash Wednesday?
Yeah. What do you want to talk about?
Well,
Ash
okay,
Wednesday?
first, I learned the fun fact. What?
Are you pro Ash Wednesday or anti-Ash Wednesday?
I'd say I'm pro. Well, I learned
I hope you can't hear our dishwasher.
our dishwasher is making so much noise. This is good.
Yeah, that's
This
good
has been
because we
not
think it
working.
might be broken, so it's making noise, which is good.
Okay, we have to lock in here.
It's like the cleansing of our souls. The dishwasher washing the dishes is like our souls being cleansed in Lent. Okay, sorry, go ahead.
Okay. So I learned about Ash Wednesday. So I walk into Ash Wednesday Mass, and there are like no spots. No spots.
It was packed, and this church is
It was
big.
so full. And don't look at me like that.
Sorry.
Anyways. And I was like, why are there so many people here? Like, you would think this is like Christmas, because I feel like everybody at Christmas is like, oh my gosh, I haven't gone to Mass in forever. I need to go to Mass, sort of thing.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, there's no way. Turns out Ash Wednesday is like one of the most highly attended Masses.
Like
Which
more than
is-
Christmas and Easter, or like about at the same level?
I don't actually like, this is good.
She doesn't know. She's not prepped.
Don't quote me on this. But
Church was
it's like
full.
on the same wavelength. I heard somewhere that it was the most attended.
There's one of our sources.
But
I don't know where it is. You just have to look it up.
yes. But I was like, why? Because not even a holy day of obligation.
I thought it is.
It's
isn't it?
not.
Are you sure?
That's what I've heard. That's what they tell
Okay.
me.
Who's they?
Well, I can't say it on the podcast.
Oh, okay. Okay, I didn't. You just mouthed something to me, and I don't know what you said.
Oh my gosh.
Wait, do it again. Okay, I got it that time.
Anyways.
I wonder if the podcast could hear you.
Yeah, they're just like,
I heard you. Yeah. Okay. Anyway.
that's fine. So that was really interesting, because I feel like I've never been like, at some points in my life, I'm like, what is the point of Ash Wednesday? Like, I feel like this Ash Wednesday Mass was the first time I ever was like, oh, this is what it's about.
Mm-hmm.
And like, for so long, I remember like, not being embarrassed, but honestly probably being embarrassed of having like ashes on my forehead. And I would always be so self-conscious of it. But I watched this video from Father Mike Schmitz because I love him. I think he's great. And he was talking about like the meaning of Ash Wednesday. And like, to some people it might seem like duh, but like the visual reminder of the crosses on your head was like so visual, of like showing. I think what his explanation was that the ashes themselves like show the sin in the world, and the fact that it's put in a cross shows that Jesus died for the sins, and like he's like saving us.
Yeah.
It's like a visual reminder of all of that. And I was like, well, dang, I don't really like, my initial reaction would be like, well, I don't really want people to know I'm a sinner, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Like, I mean, obviously we all are, but like, it just is so visible there. And it's like, imagine walking around every single day with like ashes on your forehead.
Yeah. I think sin is so crazy that like everybody sins, and yet people are so judgmental of like other sins, which like this is like kind of Lent related, but not really. Like that's just like so crazy to me that like people are so judgmental, and yet like what, like who are you to judge? Like you're literally also a sinner, and Jesus is the only one that should be judging our sins. But yet like it's such a natural like human tendency to like know that others sin, or like even to like know that you sin yourself, and like to feel so guilty, and like yes, we should like try not to sin, but like it is just a human tendency that humans sin and that we make mistakes. And yet, like, that's just crazy that like Jesus still accepts us for who we are, even amidst all our sin. And like, he takes our sin from us and literally died for it,
Hmm.
which is like the whole like culmination of Lent. And like, Lent like represents like us in the desert, like trying to like, I don't really know what the explanation of Lent is, but like to me, it's like trying to feel how Jesus would have felt in the desert, like
Hmm.
deprived, and like acknowledging that like God only can fulfill all that we need.
Yeah. It's like, it's weird. Like you said, oh, I don't know, like how, if this is actually related to Lent, but everything you just said is so related. Like
Mm-hmm.
it's all about, to me, like finding areas that you need to grow in. Like that's why you give things up, or like you're giving up things of this world to like have a better relationship with God. Which also, I had never, I don't remember, like I was in church on Ash Wednesday and somebody was speaking and was like, instead of giving something up, not actually instead of giving something up, but in addition to giving things up, like we also want to like implement things.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like for so much of my life, probably until like junior year of college, when I really like had a really good Lent, like it was always like, oh, what am I going to give up? Like chocolate or like things like that. But honestly, I feel like the most transformation, the most like I get out of Lent is not just giving things up, because like giving things up is hard. Like I'm giving up Instagram, and like honestly, it hasn't been that bad. But like I'm giving, like that's something I would use literally every single day. So like it's teaching discipline and restraint. But like I get so much more from like intentionally like adding something to my life.
Mm-hmm.
Like one of my goals is to journal and prayer every single day. And like that is not something that I like always do. Like I do, but not like consistently every single day. And like having that like intentional time where I have to do it because I know it's like something I need and something that's good for me, like that is a lot more transformative to me in some ways than like just giving something up.
Yeah. Yeah, I feel like that experience sounds similar to mine, like up through probably a year or two ago. Um, like it was the norm in my household. Like we just gave up desserts and like that's what we did for Lent. And like I don't know, it was never like, what am I gonna, I didn't like, there wasn't thought put into it. It wasn't like, what am I gonna do this Lent to become closer to God? It was just like, oh, Lent time, no sweets for 6 weeks. And then we'd like I'd accidentally cheat, or I'd be like, oh, it's a birthday, we're gonna blah 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 do it anyway or whatever. And so it would never be about let's deepen my relationship with Jesus. It would always just be like no sweets, or like, okay, time to like get healthy. Like I feel like the mindset around it was just so different than how I think about it now. Like I feel like it's natural to be like, okay, here's a good time like where I'm going to be like quote unquote forced to give something up. Like let's make it something that'll like make me healthier, or like whatever, like
Mm-hmm.
sweets. Like I'm sure there's plenty of people who give up sweets just because like, oh, I need to be healthier. Let's just like do it now and like call it our my like Lenten thing.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know. I feel like I this year for sure, like I was trying to be more intentional, like thinking, all right, what in my life right now is like hurting my relationship with God, or like what are some roadblocks that are like prohibiting me from like growing closer to God. And like I guess I'm doing several things this year, but like I'm still giving excuse me, like I'm still giving up sweets just because like that's such like an ingrained thing in me, like Lent equals no sweets for Megan. And so like I'm doing that. Like I'm also giving up TikTok and Instagram Reels. But like even for that one, like I'm not giving it up entirely because I'm still like using it at the gym, because otherwise I'd have no will to ever go to the gym ever. And so like I realized that, and I felt like it was more important for me to like give it up on other times. And so then I was like, okay, I'm going to intentionally give it up on a time where I know it's going to be hard, like when I'm sitting at my desk. Like sometimes I'll like go on TikTok, and then that'll like distract me from doing work and from like actually using my brain. And I don't know, it was just like a brain rot type of thing. But I was like, okay, I'm going to like take that away, and what can I add in that place instead? So like you're doing, like I'm also trying to journal every day and to watch like Christian videos on YouTube, like from Ascension Presents, which is Father Mike Schmidt's most of them. But like I'm trying to do that intentionally instead of TikTok. And so I like very deliberately like took something away, and then in the absence of that, like I'll have time to journal, which
Hmm.
I feel like was important for me to like do the like taking something away and giving something.
Yeah. And like going back to like the sweets and stuff, and like I think there's nothing inherently wrong with like wanting to give up like sweets. So like if people are doing that, like we're not here to be like, no, you can't, like that's
Right.
lame.
Right. I'm
But
doing
it's
it
more
too.
of like intention behind it. Like,
Hmm.
why are you doing that? And it's like, oh well, I want to take care of my body more. And like Jesus wants you to take care of your body. Like that is a good thing to do. And like if that like maybe gets in the way of, I don't know, like physical health things, then like that can be a good thing to do. So it's not like I don't feel like there's like a set rule of like you need to do this in your Lent. Like
Right. I agree.
which
Yeah,
is
I feel like sweets because also it could also just be like I want to work on my discipline and my self control, and that's an area
mhm,
that I can like practice that in my life. Like I also feel like that's a really good reason.
mhm,
I feel like the thing for me, like when I was younger, is that I didn't put any thought into it. It was just
mhm.
like my parents are giving up sweets, so I'm going to give up sweets, and like I didn't think about like why I'm doing it.
Yeah,
And then I
for
also
sure.
feel like it was like it was easier for me to be like, "Oh, I'm just going to like cheat today and I'm going to eat sweets because like, oh, this is really hard and like, oh, I'm doing so well, I can just do it one day, it's fine." Like
Mhm.
I feel like now I'm like, okay, I could cheat, but like it's like so important to me that I want to like stay consistent like for my relationship with Jesus, and that is a much better reason for me.
Yeah. I feel like when you have the motivation behind it, it makes it easier.
Mhm.
Maybe that's why like I honestly feel like I haven't been struggling too much with Instagram. Like I went on it once on Sunday because it was like something related to youth ministry that I was like doing, and I was like, "Oh, like it's also a Sunday and I'm not actually scrolling on Reels, which is really my big issue." So I like went onto it for like 2 seconds. And like I didn't think that was bad because that wasn't like, "Oh, I'm like giving into temptation." Like it was more like there was a purpose behind it.
Mhm.
But yeah, I'm also like I'm not allowing myself to do anything on YouTube either. Like I was like I can't just like switch over to like YouTube Reels or something because like that would be because I use like Instagram and YouTube probably the most, but I do watch YouTube videos still, but I've like made it so it's only things that are related to Christianity. Like things where people will be like having like a podcast or like Father Mike Schmidt stuff, like Ascension Presents, or things where like Christians debate other Christians, like just to see like other perspectives. Because like I don't think there's anything wrong with like wanting to have like I was kind of using it as entertainment in some ways. But like I also feel like I'm actually learning something from it, which is like very different than just like, oh, I'm gonna watch this YouTube couple. Which like there's nothing inherently wrong with it, but I just want to like use this time to be a little bit more intentional about like what media I'm consuming. Because like that also goes into it. Because another thing I'm really trying to work on this Lent, which is a little more vulnerable, but is like self love and beauty and like how I perceive myself. And I think that's kind of a struggle that I've had for like the majority of my life, and I still do. And I'll be at like one point and I'll be like, oh my gosh, I'm so beautiful. And the next moment I'll be like, actually, like I actually like hate everything about myself, which is like really dramatic. But like sometimes you get in those mindsets.
Mhm.
And I felt like I was getting to the point maybe where I didn't even realize how much Instagram and like YouTube was like affecting my perception of myself and like beauty standards and things like that. And I feel like I don't know, it's weird because I don't see like major transformations, but I also like feel a little refreshed. Like I just feel different. I don't know what it is, but I feel a little different. And so like it's kind of good. So I'm like also trying to hope that I'm hoping that this will maybe make it easier to work on that, I guess.
Mhm. Yeah, I feel like sometimes like for I guess Lenten practices specifically, like you don't even realize like how much of a hold something has on you until you like give it up or you stop,
Mm,
which like is like totally the point of giving something up, like realizing like, oh my gosh, I didn't realize like how much I was on social media, or oh my gosh, I didn't realize like how much I depended on this thing and how much I just expected it to be in my life. It's giving like when someone's like, I was just talking to somebody about like their caffeine addiction the other day, and they were like, I don't know, like we were talking to two people, and one was like, I literally get withdrawals from like not having caffeine, and one was like, I don't have an addiction, and we were like, okay, so you could just stop and you'd be fine, and he was like, meh, I don't know, but why would I do that? Like,
Mm.
I don't know, like just realizing like even if you don't think like it's inherently a bad thing, like if you struggle to be without it, like what does that say
Hmm.
about like your dependency on it and like how good that thing is in your life?
Yeah. That reminds me of an experience junior year where Megan and some of her friends, well, some of
Oh.
my friends too, were. So I don't know if you guys have heard of Fiat 40, but it's like I don't even, I'm probably going to describe it wrong.
It's a like Lenten, it's an intense Lenten experience for women. And like there are many rules. It's along the same lines of as the Exodus 90, which is for men. And it's like a shorter version. And there's
Mm.
like different rules to it, but yeah.
Yeah. So like there's a lot of things that you have to give up, like listening to non-Christian music and like praying every day and like adding adoration,
Like no
like going to
television. I
mass,
think there were
no
no
TV,
sweets.
no social media, things like that. Like a whole list of things, and people do different variations.
Yep.
But I remember I was invited to do this thing, and we were having this meeting to kind of discern what exactly we would want to like do and how it would operate, because like you're supposed to do it with a group so you can like meet and like hold each other accountable. And I remember like being in like not a bad place, but not a great place in my life. And like there was so like I was so angry. Like I was like in my heart. Like, you know, when you just feel like so much anger. I was like, I don't want to do this. I don't want to give up music. Like I don't want to like give up social media. Like, and in the moment it was like so difficult, and I ended up not doing it because I felt like I wasn't ready at that time. Like I felt like I wasn't called to it. But it was so difficult because I was like realizing now in hindsight that how dependent I was on it. Because now this Lent, I ended up not doing it, but I really thought about it. Like I was like, I feel like this could be like really transformational. I feel like I could see myself doing this at some point. And it wasn't this year, but I feel like it shows potentially, hopefully, growth of like being able to like actually not rely on things. But
Mm-hmm.
like that is a very real emotion. Like if there's something that you're like, I don't want to give that up for Lent because I just like don't want to. Like I totally get that. And I'm not saying you need to because I didn't do it. Like I didn't give up music and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I just remember vividly just being like so mad.
That's funny because I didn't know you were mad at the time.
Well, I wasn't mad at like anybody other than like I just had so much anger. Like it wasn't, maybe mad is not the right word. Like maybe just
Just the idea of like giving that up upset you.
like yeah, I was very upset about it.
Yeah. Yeah. That's really interesting about God's timing that like now 2 years later, like you're thinking about doing it where like you were so opposed to it before. And
Hmm.
I feel like that just like, I don't know, I've been thinking a lot about like God's timing and like making decisions and life, all the things, which we'll probably
Hmm.
talk about in discernment podcast sometime. But I don't know, just like the idea that like God will let you know when you're ready for something. Like if you
Hmm.
feel like you're not ready and you're like praying about it and God like you just like I don't know, like you really didn't want to at that time. So like God's timing is perfect and so like that wasn't the time for you to do it. And
Hmm.
like now a couple years later, like you're a different person and you matured 2 years and so like now it doesn't seem like such a like horribly upsetting idea. Which is
Hmm.
just so fascinating like the way that our minds change over time and like how God impacts that, I guess.
Yeah. I feel like it was like a lesson of like letting go. Like I feel like I wasn't ready to let things of like the world go. And I'm not over here being like, oh yeah, I'm just like such this great person now. I can totally let this go because I think that would be like actually so difficult and I would probably really struggle.
Mm-hmm.
But I feel like it's a mindset of like, this is going to be really difficult, but I am so ready for this challenge. I'm so ready to like really take this on. And I know my motivation and reason for doing it. And that is more important than give anything that I would be giving up.
Yeah. Yeah. One thing I also really liked about the Fiat 40 was that, like, Kelly didn't do it, but I did the fiat with a couple friends, and like we had weekly meetings where we would just like go and we would like have a little prayer reflection time and just like check in on each other, and it was like holding each other accountable for like all the hard things that we had to do. And like I don't know, I just felt like so supported, and like
Mm-hmm.
knowing that people around me were going through these same things and we could like have a space to talk about our experiences, which I
Mm-hmm.
feel like Kelly and I will do. Like we'll talk about some Lent stuff, but I don't know, it's just like it was really cool to like have that intentional space to have like a support system, which I feel like is
Yeah.
something that I would be interested in like implementing more. Which I know like if we would do something like the Fiat 40, like they have support systems in groups.
Yeah.
But like that would be interesting cuz yeah, that
Mm-hmm.
was like that was difficult, and I feel like I of course I didn't succeed at everything the whole time, but like there were just some things in there that were like difficult. Like there was no gossiping, which like
Mm-hmm.
if you know me, like I am such a gossip. I'm a fan of drama. Like I don't know, I was just like that was probably the most difficult thing for me because I it made me realize how much I just like naturally gossip in my life
Mm-hmm.
when I had to like become aware of it and then like try to like stop it. And like I failed many times at that, but even just like becoming aware of it was such a like mental shift for me during that Lent.
Yeah. Which like, I feel like that would be hard.
Mhm.
Like that, yeah. I feel like you'd learn a lot about yourself
Yeah.
of what you needed to work on.
Yeah, just like the ways that I viewed people, and like I noticed how much I judged people, like me just talking about like judgment before. Like I
Mm-hmm.
was so judgmental of people, and like I feel like a lot of times I realized like for me like the gossip came from like insecurity of
Mm-hmm.
like me saying something not very nice about somebody else to try to make myself feel better, which
Yeah.
I think is like I think that's a natural thing, but also like being aware of that
Mm-hmm.
that was more like an internal thing that I needed to fix versus like there was something wrong with somebody else.
Mm-hmm. That's so interesting because like my initial thought, and like I don't actually believe it, but I was like, well, am I really gossiping because I'm insecure? Like sometimes people just do dumb things, but I'm like, but if I was so secure in myself, why would I like care so much about what other people are doing? Like, why does it matter so much? And like, why?
Yeah.
And I was like, gotta check myself there. Like, I don't know. That's the cool thing about Lent. I feel like there can be so much transformation, but also like you're still gonna fail, which is like maybe doesn't sound cool, but I have so much appreciation for that because I learn so much when I fail.
Hmm.
Which is like if you know anything about me, I hate failing. I hate not knowing what I'm doing. I hate like messing up and like feeling guilty about things. Like that is not a fun feeling.
Hmm.
But it's just like it's so needed. It's just I can't
Yeah.
even. Which is maybe I can't tell if it's bad that like Lent is like one of my favorite church times because I don't want to say like favorite in like a this
I
is
love
just
that
such a
Jesus
fun,
died.
yeah,
Yay.
like that is not fun. But I think it's because it's not fun that it makes it so rewarding.
Yeah. Yeah, I feel like I feel closest to Jesus when I'm suffering. And
Mm,
so I feel like just Lent being a season of suffering, like I feel like I'm really hoping like this will be an intentional time where I can like connect with Jesus on a deeper level than I have been in a couple months. Which I'm just
yeah,
like that'll just be like super fun
yeah.
for like my future relationship. Maybe not
Mm-hmm.
fun, but
Mm-hmm.
like also like who knows?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I just had this thought of like, well, why does Lent have to be a time of suffering? Like, why do we have to make ourselves suffer? And then I responded to myself in my brain, and I was like, well, it's not that you're making yourself suffer in Lent. You're just acknowledging that like life is inevitably going to be a time of suffering.
Mm-hmm.
Like Jesus literally guaranteed that you were going to suffer in your life.
Mm-hmm.
It's just about acknowledging that suffering and like finding ways to like become closer to Jesus and like transform yourself. Like I feel like I keep using the word like transformative, and I feel like that is like a way that I would describe Lent of, I don't know, transformation.
Yeah, I feel like it's a period of time where we're doing difficult things, and I feel like going out of our comfort zone. And
Mm-hmm.
like I feel like that's the perfect formula for growth.
Mm-hmm.
Which like I love growth. Like I love personal growth and like just like emotional growth. I feel like that's really
Yeah.
valuable. And so like I feel like that's why I like Lent, where I feel like to challenge myself to like discipline and like most of the time to like give something up, but also to like experience new things and like be able to pray in a different way, I guess.
Mm. But it's exhausting.
Yeah.
Like growth.
Ugh.
Oh, like it sounds really fun in practice, but like it is not comfortable all the time.
Mm-mm.
Like even me thinking about it, I'm like, ew, that sounds terrible.
Yeah. Usually it's painful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's giving like post college. Like I had so much growth. And I'm like, oh, that
I'm
was
still
hard.
having growth, bro. I could do a whole nother podcast right now about my like mental struggles with discernment. Like I'm so stressing over
That's
here.
so
I'm
real.
stressing.
She's
Stressing.
stressing.
I really am. I
She's
feel
so
like every
stressed.
day is like a Jesus, I need you. Like, what in the heck am I doing? But
Isn't it funny how so like I feel like Lent is when I get really close to Jesus, which is like I should be close to him all the time, but I feel like I get even closer than I ever have been.
mm-hmm.
Like you would think that there would be so much more like I don't want to say peace because there is peace. Like I don't know. What I'm trying to say is that when I get closer to Jesus, I have like more questions and more things I need to think about than when I'm farther away.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's so like I don't want to say annoying because I'm not complaining. Like I really appreciate it. But also it's so frustrating sometimes when I'm kind of like on the outskirts of having a really good relationship with Jesus versus like when I'm actually in it and I'm like, "Oh my gosh, this is so much more work than I thought it was going to be." But like I want to be here and I want to be doing this, but I'm just so exhausted and like frustrated that like I feel like I make so much progress and then there's more things I need to do.
Yeah, it's giving. I gave this analogy months ago. I don't know if you remember it, but might be gross. But like sometimes, like when I'll be cleaning my jewelry, I'll like put it in hydrogen peroxide, and then like all the like gunk and stuff will like float to the top. And like I
Mm.
feel like my life lately, like when I'm trying really hard to like strengthen my relationship with Jesus, is like dipping me in hydrogen peroxide, and like all the gunk from my soul and my heart is just like bubbling to the surface. And
Mm.
like it was just so like it's been so easy to like hide it and like just like shove things down and like, oh, I won't think about that now. It's like giving like I couldn't cry for like such a
Mm-hmm.
long time, and now I just cry all the time. And I think that's because like I'm getting a lot better at like acknowledging my emotions as they come to the surface and like seeing my flaws and like becoming aware of things that I need to work on. And then it just seems so overwhelming. Like I am such a sinner, which is like literally life. Like we're literally human, and that's like why Lent is here and why Jesus died for our sins. But like I feel like sometimes like I can be like, "Oh my gosh, I'm such a good person." And then like I start praying and like thinking about, "Okay, how can I like be better?" Or like a situation will arise where I like don't act like the best version of myself. And then I'm like, "Wow, I just have such a long way to go. Like I've just made so many mistakes." And then like it can be discouraging like
Mm-hmm.
seeing how long the journey is. But
Mm.
like also like that's the beauty of Jesus, and that like he died for our sins, so I don't need to like worry. But
Yeah.
I do need to keep acting to better myself. So then it's a whole process. But
Yeah. I feel like I often am in moments of being very overwhelmed by it all. Like not necessarily in like a bad way, but like in just a way of I just want to do so many things and change so many things and
mm-hmm.
like be so much better and like do all these like amazing things for people. Like I just want to serve everyone and like I want there to be so much joy and happiness in this world and like it just becomes so overwhelming. And then I like have this like out of body experience where I'm seeing myself and I'm like, "Oh my gosh, like you have so many things to work on."
Yeah.
But then I also like get to the point of like when it's time for confession, I'm like, what do I have to confess?
Mm-hmm.
You know?
Mm-hmm.
Like it's weird because like when we're talking about judgment, like it's so much easier to acknowledge things in other people where you're like, oh yeah, you could definitely confess that. Like that wasn't good. But like sometimes when it comes to like myself, like I realize that I need to like really, I don't know, like bring in humility and be like, Kelly, like there are things in you that like you're a sinner, like there are things you can confess like that you need to confess, um But it's so much easier to like see that in other people sometimes than it is in yourself. When like you're pursuing a relationship with Jesus and you like feel like you're good. But then I like get to the point where I'm like, oh, there's so many things that I need to confess and so many things that I'm doing wrong, and like now I'm like opening all these wounds. It's like going to therapy, kind of.
Mm-hmm.
Like you're opening all these things up because you're like being really vulnerable with yourself and with God, and then you're like acknowledging things that maybe you haven't acknowledged in the past, and you kind of have to lay it all out there in order to grow. But that is a very uncomfortable feeling, and so I totally get like not wanting to do it.
Yeah. Yeah, I feel like that's like when you said like acknowledging things you don't want to acknowledge. Like that just reminds me of like I feel like I've had experiences like in the past whatever, 6 months, whatever. That like when I actually acknowledge like instead of shoving down how I'm feeling, like when I'm actually like okay, God already knows. God already knows what all is in my heart. And so like then I will like lay it all out either like verbally or like I'll like journal and be like all right, here is how I'm feeling, as horrible as it is, as mean as it is, as bad, as sinful as it is, like here's what's in my heart right now. And like I feel like that can be just like so cathartic of like reminding myself, because usually I don't want to like write it down or say it out loud because like I'm ashamed or like embarrassed. But like God already knows. Like who am I hiding it from? If I'm like praying to God and being like, all right, I'm acknowledging like here is what's wrong. Like I feel like that is the first step to like truly healing and true change, which I feel like is really good. And then like for me, usually then I have like, all right, well here are like tangible things I can do to like be better. Like I'm such a like, all right, let's find the problem, let's find a solution, let's do it. And so like I feel like that's really helpful for me to think like, all right, here's something I didn't do well. Like here is a way to make it better. Here is one thing I can do in the future to be better. And like I feel like that's just really helpful for me for growth. So I don't know. We'll see what all my Lenten journaling brings, because I feel like that's exciting. Like that's a good time to like acknowledge the parts of me that aren't as good as I want them to be, and like the things that I struggle with and the things that I've given up that like I realize I really depend on. And I'm like, oh dang, okay, I need to like reevaluate what's important here.
Yeah. Yeah, I feel like it's so like you're thinking about things that are hard to give up. And I just was like, oh, it's insane how much we rely on things of the world.
Mm-hmm.
Like me, like I do. Like I feel like I can like look at other people and be like, oh yeah, like you're like addicted to this, or you are like spend so much time with this. And then I look at myself and I'm like, what? Who am I to judge?
Mm-hmm.
Like it's me too. And it's ugh.
Yeah, sinning is a human universal experience,
Mm-hmm.
which sometimes I feel like we don't talk about it enough, like acknowledging that everyone has faults. Because like nobody wants to be the one that has faults, and that's embarrassing and like shame on you. But also like taking accountability for your actions, I feel like is also, or even just like acknowledging like this is an area I have to grow. Like I feel like even that is like honorable to like even just acknowledge that like I see this in myself that I can be better. Because of course we want to be perfect, but we can't be.
No. No. I do want to be perfect, but it's hard. You can't.
Yeah, we can only strive for perfection.
You can only strive to be like Jesus.
Yeah. I like Jesus. He's pretty cool.
Yeah. He's like my best friend in the whole wide world.
I thought I was your best friend.
No, Megan, you have to know.
That was a joke.
You better say that. Jesus
that was a joke, of
friend.
course. Jesus is always the most important.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But has he always been in your heart?
My best friend? Or has he always been in my heart?
The most important.
No, not always.
Me neither. I feel like that's also something to acknowledge, because like I feel like both of us are like in really good places right now with like faith. Maybe not. I don't want to speak for you. I am.
I'd say, yeah.
Yeah. And like sometimes I forget what it's like to be in the valley, you know?
Yeah.
Maybe we should do a podcast on that, of like the valley.
Yeah.
Of like
valleys and
what's there's a V?
I don't know. I'm trying to think. Veal cutlets.
Yeah. No, not the babies.
Bruh.
They are.
I know, but whatever.
What? I thought you would be more emotional about that because you like animals.
Yeah. If it's not in the shape of an animal, it's a lot easier for me to forget that it's an animal
That's
if I'm
true.
eating it.
It's like eating like a fish. But like, like in the store when they have fish and they're just like their heads are cut off.
Yeah. Ooh.
Uh,
Or even like that's why I was just talking about this. Like I don't like lobster and crab and like anything that like you it still looks like an animal. Like that's so
what
sad.
about shrimp?
Well, normally I don't see shrimp that looks like an animal. So I don't know.
That's true.
But yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, I don't even think it's sad. I just think it's kind of gross.
Yeah.
When I like, well, this is so not. I
Yeah.
forgot we were
We
recording.
can go back to valleys. Valleys, we're gonna do one on valleys. But
Valleys.
yeah. No, I feel like I would agree. Like I can think of things in the past that like I didn't realize I was idolizing it until it's gone. And like when
Mm-hmm.
I'm specifically thinking of it, I'm thinking of like men that I've like liked in the past.
Mm.
Like I can think of a couple different ones that like I was just like so obsessed, like I was blind to like seeing if they were actually like a good person for me. Are they like did they have Jesus in their heart? Will they make me a better person? Like
Mm-hmm.
I feel like looking forward to like in like relationships in the future, like I feel like that is just so much more important.
Yeah, I
Do you
agree.
think I should tell the podcast eventually that I have a boyfriend? I've been meaning to do that for a while. Because
Megan has a
also I was gonna
boyfriend.
add that in because another thing I'm doing for Lent is um like doing a holy hour or going to adoration once a week like with my boyfriend. And I feel like that is something that I intentionally wanted to do because I always want Jesus to be like in our relationship. Like I want us both to, like of course I want us to like have a good relationship, but I want like both of our relationships with Jesus to always be number 1. Like
Mm-hmm.
I like Jesus will always be more important than my man, and like Jesus should always be more important to him than I am. And like I feel
Yeah.
like we both know that and like we both like
Mm-hmm.
acknowledge that, but also just like remembering by like
Yeah.
taking time out of our normal like hangout time and like
Mm-hmm.
going and like spending time with Jesus.
Which almost makes it sound like not bad, but when like someone is like more important, like oh, like Jesus is like more important. You're like, oh, well, I want to be the most important thing in your life,
Mm-hmm.
but like maybe you don't feel like that.
I don't know. I think it's a new thing. I'm like it's not been in every I've never been in a relationship besides this, but like other guys that I've liked, it hasn't been this like okay, this is very clearly I'm putting Jesus first. And like
Mm-hmm.
because I would like give up parts of myself or I would like try to change parts of myself to like be attractive to like other men. And
Mm-hmm.
like I don't have to do that now. Like Jesus is the most important and like
Mm-hmm.
he's second. But like that's how it should be and we both acknowledge that. So I don't know, I feel like just like reminding myself with that during Lent is also like I think will be good for us.
Yeah, yeah, I love adoration. Like I feel like I definitely get into it. Like I've been going before Lent, like recently, like I've been doing it more consistently, but
Mhm.
I especially do it a lot more in adoration. Like I feel like just going into adoration without like at this point I know what I'm doing, but as like somebody who's like new and might not know like what to do in adoration, like I feel like it can seem really intimidating.
Mhm.
And like if there are things you're avoiding or if I don't know, you feel uncomfortable with silence, like it could be an uncomfortable situation, but I feel like I just spent an hour in adoration today and it was so nice. Like I felt like I could be there for like so much longer. And like because just like spending time with Jesus
Mhm.
and like existing in his literal presence, which like you always are, but like there's something about being in a church with no distractions and like not having to sit there, but like you can't get distracted by things in your apartment or like things that people are saying around you because like it's silent.
Mhm.
But I don't know, like I would recommend going to an adoration. And like obviously if you don't know what to do there, like maybe think about it before you go so you're not like intimidated. But I don't know, like things like I like to do is I really like to journal. and like in the presence of Jesus, because I find it really hard to just like pray in my head because my thoughts get so distracted and like I can't focus. So I like to write it down because I feel like it's easier to like really focus on what I'm trying to pray to Jesus.
Mm-hmm.
But then I'll also like do like, oh, I'll read like some scripture for the day, or I'll pray the rosary, or I'll like honestly just like sit there
Mm-hmm.
a little bit. It's like sometimes just existing is something you need to do.
Yeah. Just in case someone doesn't know what adoration is, it's just a Catholic thing, right?
I think so.
I think so. So, in a church, if there is adoration, there is this like golden stand basically that's called a monstrance. And the Eucharist that has been consecrated, so it's like Jesus's actual body, is put like in a little window in the monstrance, and then it's placed on the altar in a church. And so that is like Jesus is actually present with you and he's on display. And so then people come and like sit and just like spend time in the actual presence of Jesus.
Mm.
And so like, yeah, it's like usually like completely quiet in the church. People come and go. There always is someone there to like be with Jesus since he's out on display. But yeah, I feel like I don't think I've ever gone to adoration and not had like a book to read or like a Bible to look at or like a journal to like write in. And like, I'm kind of tempted next time I go to just bring absolutely nothing and just like sit there because I feel like that would be very difficult for me because I'm such a like, all right, I'm going to distract myself and go read this now. And like, even I was doing it yesterday. Was that yesterday? Yeah. Like I went and then I was like reading my little book and then I was journaling and then I was just like as I was journaling I was like what am I doing? Why don't I just like look up and sit here for a while? So then I did, but then I like went back to reading my book. But I was like, I don't know, I feel like sometimes I like hide in the books and hide in the prayers and like it's just so much more uncomfortable to like sit there just in front of Jesus with absolutely nothing because I'm like what will I discover? Like what will float to the surface? And so I feel like that would be really good for me. So I think this is going to be my challenge for me to do that next time.
Oh, that's so
So-
interesting you say that because I had that not exact experience, but like a very similar experience today where I was like journaling and then I was like, hold up. Let me just like look at Jesus for a second. I was like, I kind of forgot he was right in front of me.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes I like look and I'm just like in so much awe and I can't explain it. I don't know why. Like obviously like the monstrance is really beautiful. Like usually it's gold and like I don't know, it's beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
But I like just look at it sometimes. And like just looking at it, I feel like is like a really vulnerable place to be and I don't really know why. Maybe because it's just like you're just so exposed and you're like kneeling and Jesus is in front of you and it's like such a special like sacred time. But it's like beautiful and uncomfortable. Not uncomfortable, but like how do I describe it? Maybe a little uncomfortable.
It makes you feel really exposed. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think uncomfortable's fine.
Yeah. So that was just my
Oh.
So
Thank
Megan
you.
and I have this
No!
thing.
We quack like ducks. Thank you.
That just made it so much worse than just explaining it, than saying we quack like ducks.
That was me explaining it. What do you mean?
Okay, so I'll just do
That's
it.
our laughing.
Do it.
Meh.
Yeah, so that's
Like we
kinda
do that instead of laughing.
And so now we'll like send emojis that are just like ducks.
Because
like, the
that's like
laughing
us
emoji.
making that, yeah.
Yeah, so it's funny.
It's-
But anyways.
Thank you.
uh,
Yeah. But no, I like adoration. It's cool.
yeah. But I wouldn't say like I always felt that way. Like I like adoration too when they have like a band and it just plays some
Like
music.
praise and worship a little bit.
Yeah, and you just like adore.
Yeah.
But also like get to listen to the music. It always makes me so emotional. Like I swear every single time I have like tears in my eyes. I've never like fully cried, but I definitely am like,
Yeah.
this is so emotional.
Yeah, music, especially Christian music, like makes me really emotional. Like it feels like I'm in a movie. Like especially if I'm like with people or whatever, like that just makes me really emotional.
Yeah.
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 So yeah, Lent's pretty cool.
Check it out.
Participate if you wish.
You really should.
I think that'd be so cool to get somebody on the podcast to talk about like we have a couple friends who are doing Exodus 90 and like that would be crazy.
Yeah. like that experience.
Yeah, because like that, it's more intense than Fiat 40, and it's for 90 days instead of 40. So they've been doing this since like January,
Yeah.
which is insane to me.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, that'd be super cool.
Yeah.
But
So
yeah,
just let us know.
Yeah, we'll see how the
The
rent
rent.
of Lent goes. The rest of Lent goes.
Oh my gosh, we got to pay some rent for Lent and lentil.
Our friend Lentil. And for short.
I hope nobody's name is actually Lentil because then I feel really bad.
What if you just named your kid Lentil?
I'm not naming my kid
What
Lentil.
if the middle name was Lentil?
No. Why? What would be the incentive of doing that?
I don't know. It'd be funny.
Yeah, I'd be like, go back to this podcast. You actually named after.
Do you remember in 2025 when we were making a podcast about Lent and we said lentil would be funny?
Yeah,
That'd
I'll
be
put
funny.
it as his middle name.
Yeah.
Lentil. No.
That's funny.
Anyways.
Yeah. More? Should we be done? We could be done. We're at 50 minutes. Why did you whisper that? Bro, I'm gonna say.
I whispered, what's the time? Well, because then it seems bad. I just have actually no concept of time. The bill.
We're at 50 minutes. But don't tell the listeners. They can literally see it.
They can't see it.
Yeah, they can. They can see
This
the
is
time.
a podcast.
Oh, okay. Well, sorry.
They can't see us,
Correct.
which is crazy.
That's
We're
probably
just a
good because I
figment
look
of
like
your
a goon
imagination.
right now.
I also look like a goon, so
We're just two goons. They didn't need to know that. Okay.
I love the word goon, but anyway.
Me too. That's fun. I'm a fan. Anyway, other things you want to say about Lent?
Father Mike has some really good videos if you're interested in learning more. Because I always want to give resources because we are not the experts.
If you couldn't tell already.
But also, like, if you want to change something like Lent, you can adapt in Lent. Like,
Yeah.
The beginning goals do not have to be the end goals.
It's giving New Year's resolution.
Yeah.
Like, pivot. Pivot
Pivot.
and adapt.
Pivot. Okay, anybody who watches Friends gets the reference. I don't think Megan did, but
I did not.
okay.
I will, probably.
My friends' friends. My friends' friends. Yeah. My
Okay.
friends who. Okay. We'll
Okay,
understand.
anyway. Yep, okay. Your friends' friends.
Yes.
Your friends who watch Friends.
Mm-hmm.
I do, but I'm not there yet, apparently.
So,
Okay. Well, thanks for listening.
yeah, have a good night.
If you'd like to
Or evening.
contribute to our monetary funds, I was going to make a joke about almsgiving, but I'm not going to anymore because it's a
No.
Lent thing. So never mind.
Don't financially
Never
support
mind.
us.
Don't give us money.
Don't
Go
give us
donate
money.
to somebody else.
Yeah, just share this podcast with people that you think might benefit or not.
Yeah.
We
I don't care.
yeah.
But I do care.
I mean, I do care.
I care
but,
about
like,
you, but if
I
somebody
care
doesn't,
about you, but I don't care about gaining anything.
if somebody doesn't want to listen to this podcast, then I don't want them to either.
We got to talk to our PR team because that's totally not allowed to say.
Okay, we're gonna have a meeting with the PR team after
Yeah,
this.
which is just me.
And what am I? Marketing?
Well, clearly you did not have the PR training.
And you did? Okay.
Yeah, what do you mean?
What do you mean?
Okay, anyway.
I should stop this. We can fight off the podcast.
Yeah.
Okay. We love you all. Thanks for listening.
See you in 2 weeks.
Goodbye.
Bye.